Hi, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. On the Run with Beards and Dunn, the Thanksgiving edition, I guess. Hey, Beard.
Don, gosh dang it. It's happy Thanksgiving to you, Karen, the kids, the grandkids, and to everybody out there. And gosh darn it, I hardly ever get sick. And I had a cold done that I'm still got a little bit of it, but I'm definitely on the good side of it now. But, for like 10 days, I was down and out.
I tell you, whenever I've gotten a cold, I think it's the worst cold ever because and every cold's pretty much probably the same. But no, I know when the Beard says, "Hey, I can't do a recording. I don't feel good."
I could hardly talk.
I take that pretty seriously.
I'd rather have the 24-hour flu where I'm puking my guts out and then I'm done with it than a bad cold.
Oh, I tell you that cold, typically, 5 to 7 days. And every now and then you get one that's like freaking 10 to 14 days.
That was me.
And it's like, it's just like you think you're never going to get over the darn thing. And you go, if I ever feel good again, I'll never complain about nothing.
Right.
Because when you feel good, you take it for granted.
You kind of do sometimes.
Which kind of leads us into our, this Thanksgiving season, and I'm actually kind of dreading getting back talking about our running careers because mid-1983 things were not going that well for either one of us.
They kind of started going downhill for both of us.
Oh, it did. And before we get into that, when we will, but it's kind of like a little chance to look back. I think Thanksgiving is a great holiday.
Yes, me too.
I think it's, if you don't take time once in a while, we should take time every day to give thanks.
Absolutely.
For everything. But, especially the holiday, which, we get off of work if you're still having to work and that sort of thing. And giving thanks, I think is fantastic. And, you and Jill started a tradition there in Bemidji. How many years? Now, just for people that don't know this, you guys have a bed and breakfast.
Right.
And you're both involved in city functions.
Yes. In our town.
Yes. And I think that's commendable because if more people would volunteer themselves to community, everything would just be a better place. But you guys started a tradition, and you're going to tell me how many years ago.
Yeah,
you invite first responders.
Yes. So
all the first responders.
It's about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
We decided, we need to do something to give back to the community. And our first responders, a lot of the police officers, the EMT people, the firemen, when it comes to a holiday, a lot of them are on duty and they don't have a chance to be home with their loved ones for a good meal. So we decided 8 years ago that we're going to start serving the first responders on Thanksgiving and on Christmas. And we did that all on our own for about the first 4 or 5 years. And then our wonderful local grocery store, Lucan's, Joe Lucan started this grocery store way back when, and he gave a lot back to the community. Well, they heard what we were doing, and they contacted us and said, "Hey, we'd like to help you out." So now they supply the turkeys, the ham, the pies. They give us a $500 gift certificate to buy all the other extras. And so basically, it's not costing Jill and I anything other than our time, which we absolutely love to be able to give back.
Wow, that is awesome. Because how many people do you serve? How many people do you serve this year,
Done. So on Thanksgiving, just a couple days ago, we had over 20 first responders. We had EMTs, firemen and fire gals, police officers, state troopers, deputy sheriffs. And, I tell you what, Jill and I get such a great joy out of serving them, and they so appreciate it, because like I said, they can't be back home with their loved ones, and we just absolutely love it. It's a lot of work, but we love doing it.
Wow, that is so awesome. And I can't imagine how much food, when I think of policemen and firemen and sheriffs and EMT, those people can pack it away.
Oh, done. And, we had a 25-pound turkey. We had, a 10-pound ham. 10 pounds of potatoes. We had, how
many pies?
Dressing. Yeah, we had 6 pies. And all kinds of whipped cream, and there was barely anything left for me to have leftovers.
But the amount of time, bless that grocery store, because up until then, you guys are footing the bill,
right?
And so that is awesome that they stepped up and said, "Look, we can afford it, and we'll if you guys are willing to do the work." Now, Beards, how many days in advance? I mean, Jill, bless her heart, she's a heck of a cook. But
right.
She has to plan this out in stages. What gets prepared first? What
she
can be
does.
stored?
But Dunn, the first few years we did it, it was like panic mode for like 3 days. But now we kind of got it down. And so like the day before, I cut up all the potatoes, the sweet potatoes, the regular potatoes. I get the green bean casserole ready. I get this corn pudding that people absolutely love. I get that all prepared. So when it comes down to Thanksgiving morning, I put the turkey in about 7 a.m. It takes about 4.5 hours, and we let it sit for a half an hour. We carve it up, and when all the guys and gals come in, the first responders, man, it's hot and ready to go. And like I said,
that's awesome.
We love doing it.
I love that you guys post on. You don't blow your own horn. You put a picture on Facebook, and I'm sure, and I just think it's great because I think when people see what you guys are doing, hopefully it inspires a few others.
And Dunn, we're sure not blowing our own horn. Why we put those pictures up there is to let the first responders know how much we appreciate them, and also for Lukens for donating all the food and everything. So no, it's a tradition that hopefully will be going for a long, long time.
All right, nice. I knew. I'm glad we had a chance to chat about that. I think it's awesome. And so we were kind of talking about what should we talk about this episode, and it was kind of looking back, and I really appreciate we had a chance to visit with Rod DeHaven, or I did,
right,
and talking about Rod going to SDSU and how exciting that was for all of us, and how he made that decision, and how now he's recruiting some really, really great athletes.
No kidding.
And they've had some outstanding teams. And one of the things he mentioned to me was, he thought about for himself going to a big Division I school, that's got all the lights and buzzers and all that kind of stuff. And yet, when you go to South Dakota State, it's the tradition and I like to use the word family atmosphere.
Totally.
I felt that with my teammates. We were brothers in arms. We all wanted to beat each other. We all wanted to make each other better, in workouts, in races. We were very competitive with each other. But yeah,
I was there for one fall season, 1978, and you and I are best friends. We've been for 45 plus years, and all the other guys on the team that year. I'm still great friends with them, and it was just there was a community there amongst our team, but also in the town. They supported us so well. The paper covered us so good, and it was just it's a great place to go to school and to be a cross country or track and field runner.
Well, I think that's what Rod uses, and I said, that really meant a lot to him. And I said, well, you've got to be using that to your advantage to this day to talk to young athletes who maybe have the ability to go to the U of M, the Nebraskas, the big schools. But when they come to visit SDSU and they get to meet some of the teammates and talk to some of the supporters and boosters and what have you, it's and Rod mentioned the 10-hour road trips, from Notre Dame back to Brookings, Indiana, they used to take that. That was a heck of that's a big trip.
But you get close.
When you're riding we had a station wagon. There were 7 of us crammed into the station wagon with a coach.
Right.
And so there were 8 of us in that station wagon. I mean, you either got to like each other or you'd hate each other's guts or whatever.
Exactly.
Well, luckily, we always got along. And it's the journey, the journey you go on. It's fun to talk about race results and PRs and the runners that you got to run against and we got to meet and all this. But sometimes it's the journey.
Yes.
It's not the destination.
No.
And so we thought let's do a little Thanksgiving reminiscing. And I'll get the ball rolling.
Okay,
in high
sounds
school.
good.
And in high school, I was trying to think of some fun stories, humorous things, anecdotes. And a couple came to mind. And, the first thing I thought about was, just people will hear some of these stories and go, there's no way that happened. But, when I was a junior in high school, we went to a cross-country meet in Hills, Minnesota. Hills Beaver Creek. I think the two schools
Southwest Minnesota.
Yeah, and the Hills and Beaver Creek joined forces to make
little
one high school.
towns.
Oh, tiny. and it was just over the border to Minnesota. And how we got invited, they have a quadrangular. They used to have like duels, triangulars, or three teams that get together.
Sure.
Quadrangular, four teams. There were four teams. Instead of having like an invitational where they'd have 8, 10, 12 teams
Right.
show up, sometimes the coaches would say, how about we have a race on this Thursday and we'll invite, Lennox to come over from South. Okay. So we went over there. What made me laugh about this?
I haven't heard this one.
Oh, it was a 3-mile race. And we ran around sewage stabilizing ponds. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what a sewage stabilizing pond is.
Oh, that must have smelled good.
Oh, it was fantastic. It looks like a nice body of water, a man-made lake. In fact, there were two of them, and they were side by side, and there was a road in between. So they'd kind of wind us like in a circle 8 pattern, and you might get a mile by the time you went around these ponds, and then they'd send you out in Beards. My throat. I remember. I think it was the methane gases.
Probably.
I couldn't. I lose my voice from talking loud and all that. I got done to that race. I couldn't even spit because I'm not sure what we were inhaling. But you think of this now and you go, what were those coaches thinking of?
No
they had you guys
kidding.
running around sewage stabilizing
Oh,
ponds.
my
Well, the water,
gosh.
it looked good, but boy, you didn't want to jump into that lake or
No.
drink the water. And so, as I was thinking of some kind of humorous stories, that one coming to mind, like Crowley and cross country with some coaches say, well, where are we going to run the race at? Well, geez, there's some nice open ground out there around the sewage stabilizing ponds. No traffic. Nobody will get after us for killing the grass.
No.
Anyway, I don't know if anything from your high school, came to mind that you might want to share with us.
I remember when I decided to go out for cross country because, I went out for football and lasted like 43 and a half minutes. And I think I may have mentioned this previously, but, I got gang tackled, and I remember coming up with my helmet on crooked, my shoulder pads sticking out, my football pants down to my ankles. I'm thinking, there's not a girl alive. That's the only reason I went out, tried to get a girlfriend, to earn a leather jacket. So I went out for cross country, and I showed up like the following Monday, and I had no idea, that there were running shoes, all kinds of, fancy gear, not like there is now, but, better than just anyhow. So I showed up for my first day of practice. I had a pair of like Jack Purcell bumper tennis shoes. Anybody that's 60 and over might know what they were, but they were just kind of a canvas shoe with a blue stripe on the very toe of it. And then I had a pair of socks that went up to about my knees, knee-high socks.
What color were they?
Oh, I can't even remember. They're
probably dress socks.
Yeah, they probably were dress socks. So then I had a pair of gym shorts on. But I remember that morning before practice, I'm digging through my drawer looking for a pair, and I couldn't find any. So I go over to my mom and dad's room, and I dig into my dad's dresser, and I find a pair of like these white gym shorts. Well, my dad weighed about 100 pounds more than I did. So I put these gosh dang white shorts on, and they dropped right down to my ankles. So I took a black dress belt and cinched it around the top of those shorts. I mean, they were so puffed out. I looked like Mary Poppins. You could have dropped me from a tall building. I would have floated out like I had a parachute on. And then I had an old, an old T-shirt on, and everybody, including my coach, got a great laugh out of that. And I look back on that now, and I was the kind, even though I got laughed at, I wasn't one that was offended by that. I mean, I was laughing at myself because I did look
awesome.
Pretty goofy.
Because most high school kids were so, what's the word I'm looking at? Our self-identity is so wrapped up in what other people think of us for some stupid reason. And I think it's commendable. You were laughing with them.
I was.
Because it's like you had, and I think that speaks a lot to your character because it's hard to laugh at yourself. People will pick on us.
When I got out of my truck and walked over to the group of guys, and they're all wearing, running stuff, and I'm looking at myself, and they start laughing at me, and I'm looking at me. How can I not laugh at me? I look like a goofball.
They either had to just say, we got to love this guy because he needs all the help he can
get. And I think that's pretty much what it was.
That's so awesome. I love it. Well, I'm trying to think the only other high school story, and I think I might have shared this one once. I went to a meet with a good friend of mine named Fran Hogestraat. and Fran was a shot putter, discus thrower. And she and I were so into sports. She was committed. She trained year round. She was a state champion and went to South Dakota State and threw the weights and all that. She was a great athlete. And so was her older brother had the school record for the shot put. Man, threw it like 55 feet, which was pretty good in high school. And Fran was a great athlete. And in fact, she got voted senior female athlete of the year her senior year. She and I got to share that title. And so yes, and so that was she was a great friend. I really, really appreciated Fran. And she and I in the summer would go to track meets together. And Al Stratmeyer, my little brother, he went. We decided to go up to Aberdeen to the state AAU track meet. They had those back in the day. And we also took along a hurdler named Mary Beekler. Mary was her whole family were great athletes. Her older brother had all the school records.
Now, was she from Lennox also?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the four of us jumped into Fran's car.
And Lennox is just a little small rural town school. Is.
And Aberdeen is like a 3-hour drive. It seemed like it took forever. But anyway, Fran said, I'll drive. And great. We all piled in, the four of us, and we headed up to Aberdeen and had a great track meet. And we were heading home that night late. It's dark out. And we're taking back roads because I don't even think the interstate was done yet.
Probably not.
It wasn't until you got down to Brookings. Well, anyway, we're on these back road and this goddamn 18-wheelers tail is in front of us. And Fran was a good drive, and she couldn't pass it. And that was fine. We were just hanging out, Al Stratmeyer and I in the back seat, and it's like 10:30 at night. We're driving back home, and we get to a stop sign, and the 18-wheeler stops in front of us. And the driver gets out of the cab of this 18-wheeler, and he's walking back towards Fran and us, and he's got a tire iron in his fist.
Jiminy Christmas!
And Fran's like, hey, you guys, he's
the
guy's driving back here with the tire iron in his hand. And we're like, I reach up there and I locked all the doors. And I'm thinking, God, we're gonna become we're gonna be victims of a mass murder here or something. And Al and I are the men we're in the back seat. And this guy, Mary and Fran, are sitting in the front seat. And this guy's walking back, and you could see him in the headlights. He looked huge. And he's got this tire iron in his hand. And oh, my Lord. And so I locked the doors, and he comes right up to the driver's window, and he looks right at Fran, and he goes, lady, if you don't dim them headlights, I'm going to knock them out. and unbeknownst to her, she had her bright lights on.
Right, she didn't know.
Oh, no. And those lights are reflecting right into his eyeballs.
They are.
And
it
gives you a head. And he got to that stop sign. He came back there, and she goes, okay, sorry, like that. And he turns and walks back to his cab. And I tell you, my heart and all of our hearts were like pumping about 150 beats a minute. I was so scared I couldn't spit.
Done. I bet you. Go ahead.
We all started, after it was such a relief that we didn't get killed, or beat on. And, I look back at this now, we weren't laughing at the time, but I think later we all started laughing about how scared we were. Well, and it's these little episodes in your life that you'll never ever forget.
And I'll tell you what, I'll bet you didn't have to worry about falling asleep on the way back to Sioux Falls area after that
our
deal.
Adrenaline was coming out of our ears. But anyway, Fran and I and Al and Mary Beekler, that's one of the memories only the four of us know about. But anyway, anything else comes back, Beards, that you want to share with us?
Well, so it's beyond high school, but when Mary and I first got married, we lived in that little town outside of Minneapolis, Excelsior. We lived in a little one-room apartment, and it's a small town, and there's a lot of countryside around it, And I remember one morning, I had a favorite run I loved to do. So I get up one morning, it's it's late fall, and so I'm running down this little country road, and it's dark, but it's just starting to get a little bit light. And I go by this little farm, and out from this gosh dang farmstead with a white gate and white picket fence. This little wiener dog starts coming after me, and he's chasing me, and he's yapping at me, and he's biting at my heels, and I'm running up this little hill, a slight grade up this hill, and I'm kind of trying to kick him a little bit just to get him to stay off of me. Well, as I'm going up this hill, he's still right on my tail, just yipping and nipping at my heels. And I could see headlights. I couldn't see the car, but I could see the headlights starting to shine over the top of the hill. So I kind of moved over to the right, and that car came over the hill, and that little wiener dog had backed off a little bit, and all of a sudden I hear the car gets by me, and I hear thump, and I look back, and done. This little wiener dog, he looks like a gosh dang pancake.
He got hit by the car.
He's flat, yeah, in the middle of the road.
Supposed to be a fun story.
Well, it's got a good ending, and I love you know me. I love dogs, but I look back and I felt so bad. I couldn't even go back. I just kept on running.
Well, yeah, there's nothing you could do for
no,
the dog,
and so I get home and I just felt terrible, and I felt kind of guilty about not going back and at least scraping him off the road, and taking him back to his owner. So,
to the owner. Yeah.
Done. I did not run down that road the whole winter. So finally, the next spring, it'd been 5-6 months, since that little wiener dog got hit. I thought, well, I'm going to run back down that road. That little wiener dog's in wiener dog heaven now. And so I go for my morning run. It's about the same time of day. And I go by this little white little farmstead with the white picket fence, and I kind of remember about the little wiener dog. Well, I get about 50 yards past the gate, and all of a sudden I feel this intense pain in my right calf, and I look down, and there's this gosh dang little wiener dog. He's got his teeth buried into my calf, and I'm stopped now, and I'm shaking him. I'm kicking my leg trying to get him off, and he won't let go. And this lady comes out and goes, wiener dog, come back. And I go, ma'am, didn't that little wiener dog get hit by a car about 6 months ago? She goes, yeah, he did, but we went out and got him off the road, took him to the vet. He survived. He just can't bark anymore. And I'm thinking, little wiener dog, you keep biting me as long as you want. Payback.
That's a true story.
It's a true story.
Oh my gosh!
Honest to
so
goodness.
The dog wasn't dead. They found him later, took him to the vet, healed him up, but he lost his ability to bark.
Lost his ability to bark.
That's right. He snuck up on you, bitch.
Oh, he was like a sniper. He snuck up on me and just buried his teeth into my right calf.
Lord.
Oh,
that
done.
Is awesome.
I'm telling you, even to this day, that was, oh my gosh, 40 some years ago. Sometimes for some reason that I'll think about that and I'll just start chuckling, honest to gosh.
That's the only time you're happy to get bit by a dog.
Exactly.
Because he didn't kill him. Okay.
Oh, good payback.
Awesome. Winter time running, I can remember it's in college. We were home over the holidays, probably Christmas break.
Sure.
I was out running with the Lincoln High School guys, Al Stratmeyer, Todd Stratmeyer, Kevin Sheldon. Todd's older brother was a future roommate of mine in college, and we were out running in Sioux Falls in the morning, and it was a weekday morning, and there was and the weather in the Midwest, there was like a ice storm blizzard.
Sure.
And nobody in South Dakota, you get up and you go to work.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be like,
too.
It's got to be, the roads have to be impassable.
Right.
To get out of call in and go, hey, we can't make it.
Exactly.
The roads are blocked up. Well, it's got to get really bad. Well, there are cars in Sioux Falls trying to go up hills, and the road is like snow-packed and ice underneath it. And we're out there running, which is kind of ridiculous because, it was dangerous to run because you're slipping and sliding, but we didn't care. What else were you going to do?
Get your workout in.
And I just remembered as we were coming through this, it was down around 26th and I think it was Sycamore, or it's down by the Big Sioux River. Well, cars were trying to get up this hill and couldn't make it. Well, we're running. So what we would do as part of our run? We just jump and you'd get behind them and start pushing in there.
Oh my gosh.
And you give them, it didn't take much of a push to help a car get going.
Sure.
And these people were like, they were rolling down their windows and waving and thank you.
I bet.
And we were going from car to car to car to car, pushing.
What a workout.
And helping people. I mean, we were puffing. It was a heck of a workout, but it was kind of, now that I think back of it, how funny, how appreciative these people were,
Oh,
because
for
they were like
sure.
sweating bullets, like, oh my gosh, I can't get up this hill and there's traffic behind me. And all at once, here comes some runners with their, pushing them just enough to get their momentum, get their traction, and get themselves going.
Yeah.
I remember also about the same time I went down to Karen's folks in Iowa. This was in the mid 70s. And, running was still kind of unless you were an athlete, nobody was
Right.
really doing it that much. And I was running. It was a brutally cold day. And I remember I had a Bill Rogers. It must have been after, maybe after I was married. Yeah, because I had a Bill Rogers Gore-Tex running suit on. And those
Sure.
were awesome. They were kind of heavy. That wasn't the lightweight Gore-Tex. It was
No,
like
not
the
like it
felt
is
lined.
today.
Yeah, not like it is today, but it was still the lightest weight, pretty nice looking. It was a bright blue. And I'm running down this road, country road near Spencer, Iowa, out in the country. And, there are a lot of snowmobilers around at that time.
Right.
And Karen's folks were avid snowmobilers. And so, well, I'm running down the side of the road, facing traffic, and a car's coming up behind me, which is fine. They're on the other side. And as the guy gets up beside me, he slows down, which always kind of makes you nervous because
Right.
usually cars just blow right by you. You're only going maybe, if I'm running 6-minute miles, I'm 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Well, this car's matching my speed. And the guy rolls down his window and he goes, "Hey, buddy, do you need a lift?" And I'm thinking,
done.
and he's thinking, this is some poor guy on a snowmobile, because
Yes.
it kind of looked like a snowmobile suit. And he's probably thinking, the poor, I almost said a bad word,
No.
broke down out here. He's going to freeze his gizzard. He's
I
running
had that
for
happen
his
to
life.
me many times.
And I go, no. I said, I'm fine. I'm good. And the guy just stared at me like what? It's like,
I know.
like, and it's like he thought, well, maybe I'm out of my head, or something like that.
Right.
I go, no, I'm fine. I'm good. He goes, "Are you sure?" And I go, "Yeah, no, I'm fine." And he, okay then. And he
I know.
rolls up his window and he takes off. And as I was leaving, I'm kind of chuckling to myself, thinking, this guy thinks, I had a car wreck. My snowmobile's
Right.
busted down somewhere, and I'm trying to run for my life. And I just kind of thought it's kind of cool because they'd never seen a runner out here in the dead of winter.
That happened to me many times back then, because back then there weren't the runners around like there are today. And
No.
so I remember back home in Minnesota and out in Bonesteel, if I was out at Mary's mom and dad's, for visiting or something, and I'd be out running on a country road. And I remember the first few years I'd have people, they'd come by me on these country roads and say, "Oh, do you need a lift? Do you need
lift?"
Right back to town?"
Because they'd never seen a runner at that time of the year out in the middle of, and probably knowing where the distances, you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
It's like, not like near a school or something like that.
No.
Oh, I tell you, winter running is brutal. And I think I'm not going to go into the story where I showed up for a road race in the winter and wore track spikes.
I remember that.
That was I love that story because I showed up at a road race. It was 4 miles of gravel, 1 mile of paved road, but it snowed. And a long story, we already told it. I wore track spikes. Now, I hate to bring it up, Beards, but in all transparency, I think as male runners running in the wintertime, it's only fair that we bring up that there is a one thing about running in the winter that's pretty brutal. And I don't think, hopefully it's mostly all adults listening to this podcast, but there's an appendage of the male anatomy.
Oh,
that
done.
When you're running, blood gets shunted to the necessary areas, which is like your muscles in your legs, your quads, the calves, your lungs, your heart. Those things are working at 100% efficiency. Well, certain parts of your body really don't need much blood supply, if you're getting the hint to where I'm heading with this story. Oh, I know. And I've heard you. I'm going to tell you mine first.
Okay.
My story, my worst experience ever was, I think it was my freshman year of college. And it was cross country. And if you remember right, Beards, and you do, we always did 20 milers every Sunday.
Right.
Well, this was towards the end of the season. And I think it was probably our last 20 of the season. And this is like probably beginning of October, because the conference meet was usually that first weekend of October, and the nationals would be a couple of weeks later. Well, we were out going to go get up in the morning, go do our last 20 miler in Brookings. And it had been pretty awesome fall weather up until then. Highs in the 50s and 60s during the day, maybe drop down into the 30s, 40s at night, but by the time you'd get up in the morning and it'd be like up in around 50 degrees or whatever. So I got up that morning, looked out, it was a bright, sunny, the sun was just coming up because I think we ran at about 7 a.m. and we'd meet with a bunch of guys. We'd all get together for this run. And I thought, well, it looks pretty, it's a little cool out. And I put on a cotton turtleneck. I had a turtleneck and it had long sleeves. And then I just had my nylon running shorts, my regular running socks and shoes. I thought, well, this way, if it's a little cool, that turtleneck's going to feel really good up around my neck and my long sleeves. Well, unbeknownst to me, a front had come through and it was a clear night, so no cloud cover. Bears, it was like 12 degrees outside. I didn't know it. Well, now you have to remember, we didn't have cell phones that had apps that you could look at the weather instantly and see what the temperature, wind direction, wind speed. Now I do that for every ride. I know what the weather's. I dress just for the weather and which way I'm going to go. Well, we had none of that. So we took out of the dorm room and it felt pretty cool at first. But you go, well, we just, after a mile or two, we'll get warmed up. And you did. But I remember my fingers are freezing because it was like, and maybe it was 15 degrees by now. So I pulled that turtleneck down over my hands and I gripped it. So, it looked like I had no hands.
Right.
I just had this turtleneck coming down to my hands to keep my hands warm. And I remember that everybody else they had kind of, they were smarter than me, had warm-ups on, had warm-up pants, had gloves, stocking hat. And I was thinking, man, and so we were running and I was warm on most of me, but there was one part of me besides, my hands were okay once I balled them up and had that turtleneck over me. But man, I tell you, I'm trying to think of the right term to use here, but after about 10 miles, I knew I was in a lot of trouble here because things were not feeling very well.
No.
And we did a 10-mile, and I talked to guys. I said, look, I'm freezing. Can we do a 10-mile loop back by the dorm? I'm going to get some more warm-ups. I'm freezing out here. And they said, oh, yeah, okay, fine. It was Mike and Mark Bills, Randy Fisher. It was all the guys, Pat Tobe. So we did a 10-mile loop, and we stopped, and they all stopped in the dorm in the lobby. And I said, I'll be right back. And we're up on 4th floor Brown, if you remember, Craig. So I headed up this Beards. I got up there and I was in a world of hurt. And I don't know if the only way I could describe it for a male is if somebody took a razor blade and took your most important appendage that you can think of. And I went into the bathroom and I had to urinate. And when I started doing that, it felt like the goddamn thing was like I'm going to fall. It hurt so goddamn bad. I couldn't. It was excruciating. And I was sitting on the stool just because I had to sit down. I was like in tears. And I thought, man, I was hurting it so bad. And it wouldn't go away, the pain, because it was warming up.
Right. That's the worst.
Oh my gosh.
When the blood starts coming back in there.
And I'm just thinking, if I get out of this alive, I'll be happy. And I remember it took forever. I got warm-ups on. I got some sweats. I think I stuck a bunch of socks down my shorts to try to get more warmth or insulation. And Beards, I finally, and those guys are like wondering, what in the hell's Mike?
Right.
They're down in the lobby. They're all sweaty, waiting for me to show up. And I finally come back downstairs and we take off. And I'm still hurting, but we get another. And as I keep doing that second 10-mile loop, things started to warm up and kind of get back to normal. Beards, that I've never hurt that bad in that area of my body ever. And I learned a valuable lesson after that.
Well, Mikey, listen, it didn't seem to affect you at all. You had 3 kids after that. So.
I'm amazed that thing still works. Well, Beards, have you ever had anything like that happen to you?
Okay, so it was Halloween weekend of 1980, I believe, and they had a 20-kilometer race that started in downtown Minneapolis and finished at the state capitol in St. Paul. So
this was a big race too.
It was a big race. Yeah. And so back then, it was a cold and it was sleeting and snowing. It was cold, real windy. Well, back then we didn't have tights and all that kind of stuff, and I didn't want to wear sweatpants. So I grabbed a pair of my mom's nylon stockings, and I put those on kind of to cover my legs and stuff, and then I had a pair of running shorts on top of it.
I think I remember Frank Shorter, I think, had came up with that one time.
I might have even got it from him. Yeah. And it really didn't give me much protection, but anyhow.
It seems kinky.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't even imagine doing that today. But so anyhow, the race starts. And I'm out in the front and there's a few of us in that lead group, but I'm in the lead and everybody's right behind me, so I'm bucking in the wind.
What's the temperature?
It's like, I don't know, 20 degrees. It's snowing, and it's
windy.
The wind's blowing about 25 miles an hour into our face, and I'm freezing. My upper body was pretty good, my legs, but the important part, man, I'm telling you, it started hurting big time. So we come down the big hill. It's kind of like the finish line at the Twin Cities Marathon.
Yeah.
You come down that big hill and finish at the Capitol, and I just out-leaned. Remember Lindsey Brown?
Lindsey Brown. From
Yeah.
Mankato.
Lindsey was
good
a
runner.
good
Yeah.
runner from Stillwater, Minnesota, and I just barely beat him. So they had the Capitol open, and all the media's there. So I walk in there, and I am hurting. I'm not hurting because I just ran fast time. I am hurting because the big fella is hurting even more. So I get in there, and there's this lady reporter from the St. Paul Pioneer Press. She starts interviewing me, and I've got my right hand down my pants trying to warm the gosh dang thing up. Done. I got frostbite. I haven't been the same since. Honest to God. I'm telling you, it gets below 70 degrees, and it turns into a turtle head. Let me tell you.
Did this come up in your interview at all with this lady? Did she say?
She did.
She must have thought.
She looked at me like, why is that guy got his hands down his pants? And
I thought you're some kind of pervert or something.
If I remember right, I remember telling her something like, yeah, things got real cold down here, and it feels like it's going to break off.
Oh, man.
Done. Okay.
I can feel your pain, bud.
This might be our last podcast.
I know we might be banned. The federal whatever it is.
Oh.
Well, Beards, I know that, and I remember you telling me that you were gracious because you were running for New Balance at the time,
right?
And you said to Lindsey, and it was like a free trip to another race.
Yes,
and you gave it to him.
I did.
I remember right. You did.
Yep.
And I know you've done that before, where because you told guys, look, if I want to go to that race, I can go to that race. I don't need to win a free trip. And so the race director's like, it's your prize. What do you want to do with it? You gave it to Lindsey Brown, and I think he probably worked it. I wonder if he was as frozen as anyway. We won't. Someday if you ever run into that guy, you might have to ask him how do you feel after that.
Well, I was the only one that was wearing nylons that day, so I learned a good lesson. That's for darn sure.
Let's change. Let's not go to the winter anymore. But there's one story before we run out of time that I know you and I have talked about it many times because we learned a valuable lesson. You and I had gone down to Kansas City in 1978 after our cross country season.
Yes,
and ran really well. You won the race. I got third.
Right.
You won a trip to Florida. We came home for that with just our heads.
It was the Schlitz
heads held high
championship.
25K. And we went down there, and in all honesty, we kicked butt. I mean, we ran really well. Fred Carnahan, and I know Fred was a great runner. Fred and you dueled the whole way, and you got away from him, and I know he was right on your. I think you might have beat him by less than 30 seconds. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was right on my tail.
He was right there, and I was kind of in no man's land in third all by myself, which was kind of nice. I didn't have to. I ran hard, but so we finished that race, and we were on a cloud nine.
Oh my gosh!
And we were really happy with ourselves.
Remember that trophy I got? It was like 5 feet tall,
huge. Well, a year later, I have no cross country eligibility. You're out of school, but you're training and you're training well. And we decided the Schlitz Light people, they were going to have the race again in Kansas City.
And they invited us back.
They invited us. And you as the defending champion. And I'd finished third. And so we were like, they said, hey, if you guys come back, it's free entry. And they give us a motel room. I remember we roomed together.
Yes.
And so you said, Mike, you picked me up in that darn little Honda Civic you had.
That little white car that was about the size of a matchbox.
Oh, it was barely big enough for two guys to fit into it. Right. They had three on the floor. I remember you shifting that manual transmission. But we said, oh, yeah, we'll come down there. And so you picked me up in Sioux Falls or Brookings, wherever we were at that time. And we bombed down the interstate, heading to Kansas City. And, all the way down there, we're thinking, man, I'm really looking forward to this race because, last year we just kicked butt here. And so they invited us back and all that. And so, and they changed the distance to 10 miles from 25K. I don't know if they kind of decided they'd get more people running.
Sure.
Probably if they shortened the distance.
It was such a hilly course.
Well, and I'll tell you my version and you can tell me your version. But we walked in to this hotel, which was the race headquarters, and we had a free room there in our. But I just remembered as we got there, and we laugh about it, but we both had our sunglasses on.
Yep.
We both had our duffel bags slung over our
Yep.
shoulders. And basically, as we walked into the lobby, we might as well have just say, "Hey, everybody, we're here.
We're here.
We're here." And I know you've all been waiting to see us, and we're back. And we were kind of
Right.
feeling pretty full of ourselves that we were kind of like, the pre-race favorites and the
Yep.
the defending champion in third place from last year are back, and we're invited. And so we're here to kick some butt. And I remember Bob Wallace was there, and Bob and you had dueled,
Statehood days.
Statehood days, and that race was a few years later. But Bob Wallace was there, and he was an outstanding runner. Well, but we were kind of like, we're ready for this. And so we got our race numbers, we got checked in. I don't remember much about the pre-race other than we got to the starting line. We drove out to this park, I think it was Shawnee Park or whatever.
Yep.
And did our warm up. You went, because we were both into our race mode by then, and you went and did your warm up. I went and did mine. All I can tell you, my version of the race is once the gun went off, I think I might have went out a little too hard, thinking that I had kind of a responsibility as the third place finisher of a year ago to at least finish no worse than third this year, and so I'm going to go out with the lead group. And if I remembered right, the year before I started conservatively and kind of pick guys off during the race. Well, this year it's like, I'm better than that. I'm going to go out with the leaders and just put the hammer on them. And Beards, I don't know if it was the first, second, or third mile, but all at once, everything after that's a blur. I don't remember anything other than I never hurt so bad in my life. I was sucking wind. I'm not even sure I finished. I think if I did, I think it was like 23rd place or something horrendously bad. And I was so humiliated. I remember as soon as I got done, I went straight to your car.
Yes.
Didn't make eye contact, didn't go to any award ceremony or nothing.
No.
And I hid kind of basically behind your car or in your car. And then I was waiting for you. I don't remember how your race went.
Done.
Go ahead.
Okay. So and I think you and I can both agree on this. That's the one and only time I've ever gone into a race. We went into that hotel with our sunglasses on, with our bags strapped over our shoulders, thinking like the big boys are here, and we were cocky. And it's, we
were hot.
Yeah. It was the one and only time I think that you or I ever got like that. And it was a good lesson. And the next day, I mean, you ran like, if I remember right, I think you dropped out.
I don't think I finished.
No.
And I think came by the start-finish line. I bailed.
I finished, but way back. And I remember I come across the finish line, and I met you at the car. Well, I don't think we showered. We just jumped in and started driving north. We had our tails between our legs.
We were ashamed. We ran like, you're correct. We went down there with this arrogance about us.
Yes.
And if anybody's listening to this, listen. There's this thing that you can call it. I believe in God, and I think He said, "I'm going to teach these boys."
Yes, absolutely.
You should be thankful for what your abilities are, and take full advantage of them. But don't think you're as hot as you think you are, because there's always going to be somebody better. And you want to just say, "Look, I want to run a race as good as I can, and up to my ability." I tried to run above my ability that day, thinking that I had this like ability to do that just because I thought I should. And man, yeah. And I've never really liked that story because it was such a tough lesson to learn about being humble. It doesn't mean you can't be proud of your efforts or of your abilities and of the work you've put in. But then there's a slippery slope, or there's a line you don't want to cross.
No.
And I see a lot of athletes do it. We crossed it into arrogance. And Beers, I think that's one of the things I've always appreciated about you ever since I've known you. You could win a race and you're just the same guy you were after you won the race as you were before. You could run a 2:08 marathon and still be everybody's good buddy and friend. It didn't change your outlook on life as far as how you related to other people. Where I have seen, and I think we all have seen examples of people that have done well in life who came from maybe humble beginnings and worked hard, but then when they got success, in all honest words, it went to their head.
Right.
It changed how they treated people, and it changed the way they looked at other people, and not always for the better.
No.
And so that was an experience that I hope I never I forgot. I've never forgot
Well,
it. And you and I,
no,
we bring it up every once in a while just to kind of hold each other, I think, accountable.
Exactly. And Dunn, that was a great lesson for both of us. And, back, after those years after that, when I started to kind of, like run 208 and stuff like that,
Yeah.
there was a lot of people that tried to put me up on a pedestal. And I would never let that happen because maybe I could put one foot in front of the other faster than most people back then. But, you or somebody next door to me can do something a lot better than I can do. We all have been gifted by God, and some of our talents are better than others, but their talents are better than ours and other things. And I tell you, that was a good lesson that day, and I'm glad it happened.
I love this. And I think we'll wrap up with that. Thanksgiving, I think we all need to look back. And I am so thankful to have had the experiences that I had, to have the opportunities, the coaching, going to running camps, running with teammates, having a coach that was inspiring in high school, getting to go to South Dakota State, meeting you. Man, when you look back at all the opportunities, things could have gone different directions. And maybe you don't know for the better, but definitely could have gone towards the worse. The fact that you and I both had fairly short football careers is probably a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I look back on that too, and I'm so thankful for, everything, the coaches I had, the teammates I had, but most of all, I'm so thankful for you and Karen. You guys. I tell you, and I'm not just saying this because Mike is right there. We're talking to each other, but not a lot of people find a true friend in life, and Mike and his wife Karen, they have. I tell you what, I would trust my life with them. They are the best friends a person could have. If I ever was in trouble or needed anything, or was down and out, they've always been there, and that I'll be forever thankful and forever grateful.
Well, right back at you, bud. All right. Well, with that,
and Don, this was so much fun today, and we want to thank everybody for listening. And if you have any questions for us or the comments about the show, you can contact us directly on our website at beardsanddunpod.com, or leave us a comment on our Facebook, Instagram, or X, all at Beards and Dun Pod.
And, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit that like, comment. We'd love to have you subscribe. I think we're almost up to 50 subscribers now.
Hey,
so get us over the hump there.
That's better than none.
And, and if you want any merchandise, I was at South Dakota State about a month ago, and I handed out a whole bunch of On the Run with Beards and Dun stickers. Yeah, and so if you ever want any fun stuff, don't hesitate to go to our website. Beards, have a great day, bud.
Hey, you too, buddy. Always good talking to you. Bye-bye.
I look forward to next time. Bye-bye.
All right.